it was a head scratcher for me, and I'd love for you guys to. I want the sort of the tinfoil hat theories on this one. This is Misfits, supposedly in negotiations to sell their LEC slot. So Misfits has been in League of Legends, European League of Legends, since 2017. Supposedly they're in negotiations to sell the spot. There's reports that they've already found a buyer and that the new owner is going to be announced literally like today or tomorrow. Tomorrow. Why, I think multiple times we've talked on this podcast about like the top esports teams from a valuation perspective, the one common thread is they all seem to have League of Legends franchises. Like, why would Misfits sell a slot here? What is the impetus here? What is the reasoning? Give me some of the fly on the wall in the boardroom, what the logic is. Jeff, I don't know if you have thoughts.
I mean, I don't have the only theory I have is maybe they need to raise money, they can't raise money, and they sold the one thing they could sell. Right? Sometimes you have to sell the family jewels in order to eat, to pay rent. And I have no clue. Clearly, I have no clue if that's the case here. But I'm just thinking in the context of what we spoke about. I guess it was last week with layoffs happening at 100 Thieves and FaZe Clan. You know, they did get public, but they seemed like pretty close to. I think if they hadn't gone public, they would have had some cash troubles. So a lot of these orgs that maybe raised money a year ago are now coming back to the market and finding that like maybe capital is not as free as it was a year ago. So it's possible they just had to do this in order to really finance the rest of the business. But
no, I think Jeff's right. You know, we've had a lot of CEOs from top orgs on the show recently. I mean, honestly, Paul, since he started the brand, but also very recently with Sentinels, Gen G, we had East Coast on today, and everyone is rethinking their business model. And when you look at traditional esports orgs and the competitive nature of building teams to compete and to win, that might have been the goal, or that might have been a big part of how they were able to function, were those prize pools in years past, but it isn't anymore. And so maybe Misfits is looking at themselves and saying, hey, we need to get out of one of these games and we have a valuable asset here. So to Jeff's point, I think in context of esports orgs redefining themselves and redefining or restructuring how they're going to stay afloat, they unfortunately had to sell something, or one of the most valuable things that they possess.
Does anyone think that maybe they see, it was Arnold at Gen G who said, there's a bit of an esports winter coming, and maybe they think this is selling at the top, right? That they're getting out when the prices are most frothy, maybe? Like, it's not a question of needing capital. It's more just like recognizing that this may be the maximum value of the asset. It's like a local maximum, right? For the next 5 years, this will be the maximum value they're going to extract from that asset. Thought A. Thought B, could this be driven by Riot in some way?
So I would definitely buy thought A. That's a great point about selling at the top. Honestly, with regard to Riot, I think this just gives Riot a lot of credit in that they offered these teams an entry-level price point to get that franchise slot where they were able to use it to play, to compete, and could then resell it. We've seen a lot of people sell these slots in years past, and it was a good business model for them to buy and hold, as opposed to, Activision, where you would almost never be able to sell that for what you'd bought it for. So I would just give kudos to Riot, honestly, in this context where Misfits bought, competed, made it part of their brand, selling it for a profit. It was a good endeavor for them. It's not part of their future anymore. They need the cash, and they're going to still come out ahead.
League of Legends franchises like the Rolexes of the esports world.
Well, that's kind of the only reason I'm thinking is like, if you're going to sell, if that's your view is like, hey, they were going into an esports winter, things are not great, teams valuations are going to come down. Why not sell your whole business then? Like, why sell the one that probably will hold up best?
Well, because
even if maybe there's no buyers for the rest, but like, I mean, I don't know. I think that's the one. Like, if I had to guess, like 3 years from now, like, will the rest of Misfits, assets do better than the LEC one? I would say no. Like, you'll probably, if there is an esports team winter, you'll probably see a flight to quality, and some of these secondary and tertiary teams are the ones that will get hurt. But like the big franchise, like League of Legends slots, will probably hold their value better.
I mean, maybe, but there's also obviously a ton of other revenue streams like coming in at this point from content creation, all kinds of other things. I wonder more so if they've kind of extracted what they can extract from the League European audience. They've built up the fan base, they've gotten followers, they've done what they can do. And now, to Paul's point, there is an esports winter kind of coming. This is an easy way to plant your business with cash. And you can still count on a lot of that audience maybe kind of staying with you as you move into other league tournaments, other content creation ventures, whatever it may be. They also might not have found a great connection in the League European audience. And it's just like, hey, we're kind of moving into an esports winter. Yep. We were really successful. We made qualifiers a couple times for Worlds. It's just time to focus on building a different audience or taking our league team in a different direction.
The geography one's a good point, Lindsay, that I don't think I thought about. Like Misfits is very much like Florida based now, right? Like it's more East Coast of the US, feels like more Southern US. Like they really have made an effort to try and own Florida, I feel like, at least just based on their PR. So like maybe the European play felt disjointed and they felt like they could monetize it by selling it. Justin says, looks like they sold to Team Heretics. Also seems like they will leave the LFL, so they will fully be out of league. Yeah, I mean, that sounds kind of like a big strategic kind of decision, right? Like we don't want to be in league at all. Let's divest the assets. Matt says it also seems like content creation is more valuable to esports orgs versus the revenue brought in from the actual teams they field. You can cut the teams and dedicate more dollars to creating engaging content. Yeah, I mean, like you guys will hear on the podcast this week with Beast Coast, there are definitely synergies between esports and content creation, especially because a lot of times it's the same people making the content and competing. Chris says Spanish esports is making a hell of a run. Paul's Riot play might be right. Also rumors of a new owner at Misfits 2. Lots of details to look at in the coming days. You know, this is why I threw up that last sort of thought. Could this be driven by Riot, who wants to change sort of the mix of owners in LEC? I don't know. Maybe there was pressure there to divest the asset from Riot. Chris says Spanish streamers are wildly valuable as of late. Great place for Riot to position themselves. This is true. I mean, that is just a fact. And
hoping that you guys talked about that with Beast Coast, because I know that they have some teams in Argentina and Peru and whatnot. So
yeah, they're very bullish on that region. Very, very bullish.
That's Spanish speaking, not Spanish, just to be clear. But any Spanish speaking team in League is going to appeal to that audience that speaks Spanish in other places as well. Yeah.
One of their biggest, without giving too much of the episode away, but we talked a lot about Dota in like Latin American markets and how that's just exploding right now, and where they're spending a lot of their time and focus on.